you, Andrea. It's an honor to be here. Debbie asked me a while back to maybe share some of the observations that we've had on the senior living industry over the past 18 months, and to also share some of the things that we've seen and actually developed on the mortgage lending front. And so we're going to try and make reference to some of the things that we're seeing in other markets and apply them to the opportunities for the senior living to possibly pursue. And so again, I appreciate this opportunity, and I'm gonna try and tell you my background relative to senior living. First of all, I'll share the fact that I'm the youngest of 6. I'm in the lower left-hand corner. I've got a nice little, do with some axle grease that my dad, who loved his Dick Tracy glasses. I was part of a really wonderful family growing up, and as all families, the foundation very much comes from the parents, 2 loving parents, and they eventually went through the aging process. My dad actually won that race. He aged a little quicker than my mom. We figured out that he had Alzheimer's, and my mom was a caregiver for about 5 years, and an event happened that forced us to scramble to find a care provider, and so we moved him into a memory facility right away. And I tell you, the shock and awe of that whole experience and just trying to get our ducks in a row, it was tough to absorb. In this case, I'm illustrating the fact that my son is looking at his grandpa saying, what's this all about? Is he going to be here for a while? And all of us were just kind of, we were trying to deal with this decision that we made, that we probably did it in a fashion that it was tough. And yes, I inherited his Dick Tracy glasses, and fortunately, he was only in that memory care facility for 30 days. And again, the family went through a lot of stress, as all families do when they have to deal with these types of decisions or situations. And then, the next chapter in our family was dealing with my mom. She fortunately got to live the next 10 years in her home, and but unfortunately, she had COPD. And the last couple of years were really tough. And again, we thought we did all this great planning to prepare for her situation based on what we experienced with my dad. But no matter what, it's tough when you get put in these situations where you have to make a decision. And this is a photo of her at her 86th birthday. And yeah, that is a debilitating disease, COPD, and it was just 2 weeks later when she passed, and she said, "Hey, I want to stay in the house. You're going to have to take me out of here feet first." And I tell you, at that very end, it was tough. It was incredibly tough for our family to deal with it. And so I'm sure that everybody's got stories out there, and we do have a passionate side to our purpose of being connected to senior living. And really what the question is, with all the stories that are out there and that are going to be coming in the years to come, is the industry making them better? Are they providing a better experience, not only for the seniors, which we know that the industry does a really good job of providing care, but what about the families, the adult children? Are they providing a good experience for them? And so we're going to talk a little bit about just the experience of the consumer. And I'm going to share with you a lot of similarities between mortgage and maybe some other B2C markets, and try and connect the dots for what senior living should consider. So I do have to reference the fact that we have 17 years of experience in marketing technologies. And if you think about mortgage banking, it is one of the most onerous markets serve, just because of the regulatory aspects, as well as the competition. Millions of people every year find a financing vehicle for their homes or to provide more income, disposable income for their families through refinancing. It's a very, very mature market. And in 2014, we kind of scaled the platform to maybe look at another industry, and that other industry that we chose was senior living. And I'll share with you some observations that we made that really gave us a level of confidence that we could help. But really, what I want to do is I want to point out some things that we have seen that are incredibly exciting for those that participate within this industry. And we all know that it's exploding. Baby boomers are going to, over the next 40 years, 30 or 40 years, are going to they're going to double. And the fact that the average occupancy rate for assisted living and memory care is about 22 months, give or take a couple, that equates to a pretty high turnover. And how are they going to deal with it? And I mentioned this fact that it's growing. Well, in the next 9 years, that's really when the bulge is going to be realized, because the average age is 84 at move-in, and today that median age is 75. So private equity is starting to flourish and build communities all over the place. And so this was very interesting. You always need that market sizing aspect to make a commitment on a new market. Well, you're already there. You're experiencing this growth, and really it's going to be quite competitive over the years to come, because a lot of other people realize it. This was the first pain point that we identified, was this aspect of a very thin margin or room for error, because you've got profitability needing to be at this because of the level of care, the debt services, and all kinds of other costs. But the occupancy rate on an annualized basis for assisted living memory care is 89%, break-even's 87%. And again, these are some rough numbers, but the money that's left on the table from those unoccupied apartments, it's a couple of dollars. But the challenge for the industry, the way that we see it, is that dealing with some sort of method to sustain this census, and dealing with the turnover. And from an industry perspective, there's 850,000 new residents that need to be recruited into the communities, and that there are some means to actually leverage from other outside parties to help support that top of the sales funnel. And so, the pain of the industry is twofold. It's you've got a bunch of upside to increase the occupancy rates, but you're dealt with this ongoing challenge of turnover. And really, the thrust, I think, for many communities, how do you fill the top of the sales funnel? So I think our first polling question, Andrea, if you want to share that, is what you're doing to help fill that top of the sales funnel. And this, again, as this is going on, the interaction here, this is no different than other industries. And it's incredibly important, to begin the process, because you can solve a lot of problems if you've got a sustainable means to fill the top of the sales funnel that increases your likelihood to achieve your goals.
Great, thanks, Tim. We just launched the poll, and the question is, what is your biggest challenge filling the top of the sales funnel? We have about almost everyone voted. We'll give it a few more minutes, so now's your chance. We want to know, what is your biggest challenge filling the top of the sales funnel? Is it limited marketing budget, lack of sales follow-up, compelling marketing collateral, too reliant on internet lead providers, or competition? We'll give that just a few more seconds. All right, so go ahead and cast your vote. I think we almost have everybody. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll.
All right.
Okay, and the results. The top was a limited marketing budget at 35%, and then too reliant on internet lead providers at 30%. Competition came in at 22%, and lack of sales follow-up was 13%, and compelling marketing collateral was 0%.
Awesome. Appreciate everyone for participating in that. And so, so when you look at, as it pertains to options that we've kind of encountered or identified, and again, every industry tries to find sources to help fill that top of the sales funnel. And what we've categorized here is that there's the list providers, the data providers. You take that information, you slap labels on an envelope, and you put it out there to your targeted audience. And then there's the ad agencies that take on a more broader role within the marketing efforts. And you've got also those communities that want to try and do things on their own. They're trying to organically generate leads, and they're using technologies or innovations like a CRM that help them better manage the sales cycle. And then there's the companies like A Place for Mom and Caring.com that actually provide leads, qualified leads, so to speak, to the communities. And that's very similar to some of the other markets like mortgage or for-profit education that actually deliver qualified leads from advertising out on the internet, where people actually fill out a form and say, yeah, I need to talk to somebody. So it's interesting that there's a lot of different options out there, but the question is really how do we best leverage some of those that are mainstream. And so if we can kind of jump maybe, Andrea, to the second question, out of those internet lead providers, if we can maybe find out what the audience has to say about those, because that was a pretty high percentage. I think it was 30% that they're relying on those internet lead providers.
Great. So we've just launched the poll for what is your experience with online lead providers? Would you say it's excellent, good, average, poor, or let's just not even say? So the votes are coming in quick on this one. Very interesting. We've got almost everyone voted, so we're going to close the poll in a few seconds. All right, get your votes in. We're going to close. Okay. So for what is your experience with online lead providers, 42% of the respondents indicated average, 33% said poor, 17% said let's just not say, with 13% at good and only 4% at excellent.
Okay. Well, there's the way that I describe that, there's opportunities for improvement. And interesting. Okay. Well, there's no question that the industry sees maybe exploring options. And so, again, applying some of the things that I've talked about within either mortgage, EDU, or any other B2C market, you have to have some foundational building blocks if you're going to create a roadmap to maybe something that's better, something that's more innovative. And again, these are just observations that I'm making. And I just came back from a conference in Philadelphia that was all about marketing technologies and trying to create a better experience for the consumers and doing it in a way that was more sustainable. And so the takeaways that we had from not only that conference, but what we built for the benefit of the industry, you've got big data as a foundational element. So in the case of senior living, you've got consumers, and so you break those up into maybe a couple of different segments, one being the seniors and the other being the adult children or the family members. And so that's a part of the big data. Let's see what else. You've got the communities, and those probably have different attributes about the type of care, the amenities that they provide. And so when you add all of that up, it is big data. There's 15,000 communities on the assisted living memory care. There's 40+ million seniors and 40+ million adult children over the age of 45. When you collide that, that's big data. And so what are you going to do with it? Well, in a perfect world, gosh, this goes back 18 months. The perfect world that I think, if the industry, senior living, can do this, if they can predict, if a community can predict their next 12 months of residence, how cool would that be? Or at least have a short list that would fulfill, let's say, the 50 available apartments that are going to be coming available over the next 12 months. That would be so cool to be able to predict who they are. And so my question way back when was, why can't the industry do that? Well, when you apply machine learning algorithms to predict or identify indicators from the attributes of the seniors and the adult children, there's no question that you can have a higher likelihood to create that short list. But what are you going to do with it? And so marketing automation has been around. We've been around for 17 years. There's all kinds of other providers out there that do it. When you want to take action from the big data and machine learning algorithms that give you that short list, you want to send the right message to the right person at the right time. And to send a personalized message to a senior or the adult child from the community, you need as much information as you can to deliver the right message, to provide a good experience. And sometimes that may take a while. So when you add this up into a systematic approach to increasing sales efficiency and optimizing your marketing efforts, you get what you want, census optimization in a sustainable way. And so that's, other industries have proven that, and there's no question we believe that the senior living industry can take advantage of it. So I have to reference something that this actually came from this conference I was just at. They're talking about the cost of acquisition, and so somebody threw up some slides, and of course I didn't necessarily plagiarize, but I tried to apply it for this webinar. The cost of to acquire a mortgage customer dating back years, started at around $4,000, and today it's half of that. Well, when you look at the savings for the industry, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in savings. And I'm really close to the for-profit education, and they started, probably at $2,500 to acquire a student, and they got better, but regulatory aspects and the fact that unemployment is lowering, it's driving up their cost of acquisition. But I can't prove these exact numbers on senior living, but the fact is, or at least our perception is, it's not getting better. It seems like that first month of rent is not going down anytime soon, and that seems to be a benchmark that's used. And so this should be a motive for the industry to take action and to do something. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually share with you some technologies that are available. It's available within our platform, and I guarantee you there's other providers out there that do this. But so the purpose of showing this, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit the play button here. And what I'm doing is I'm showing you how to visualize a consumer database. In this case, it's for the Kansas City metro area. It looks like the 50-mile radius. And what you can do with big data is you can actually filter based on certain aspects, certain attributes like age. In this case, what we're doing is we're narrowing that band from 75 to 90 and the distance from a particular community. And again, these are technologies that are available. Data visualization helps you feel more confident when you're creating a strategy and you're taking action on that strategy. And again, here we're narrowing the band of, let's say, the net worth, because not everyone can afford, certain assisted living communities or memory care providers. And so what we're doing in this case is we're really getting focused on a particular area around a community to identify those that fit the profile, the attributes that are probably necessary to be a likely future resident for that particular community. And so again, technologies like this are available, and the industry needs to take action on exploring them and how to leverage them. So again, it's just, when I saw this for the first time years ago, it was motivating, it was inspiring. Gosh, what can we do with this? Well, in the case of this particular community, you can create that short list of prospective residents, future residents, and lead scoring amongst a lot of different B2C industries is so prevalent. It's crazy. How they did a poll yesterday at this conference I was at, and more than half leveraged lead scoring as a part of their sales prioritization. And it's all built into the technologies that they use. And so we have been asking that question when we've been talking to communities: are you using lead scoring as part of your focused approach to your sales efforts? And it's not quite over 50% yet. So it's definitely an opportunity for the industry to explore as a mainstream tool. When you look at the big picture and you narrow it down into some finite focal points, again, no matter, and this is a very dense illustration of maybe an architecture that's built for a particular client or a particular community. What you're seeing is sophistication applied to the process. And no matter who you use, you need to make sure that they have the means to do some of these integrations, whether it's between a CRM, let's say an external CRM, and your internal CRM that connects to your EHR, or it's the ability to take action through distributing different marketing messages through email, direct mail, paid search. That's very much tied to the status or disposition of that lead. You have to be able to execute in a sophisticated way to provide that great experience for that consumer, because that's what it's all about. If you can deliver a great experience to more and more people, you're going to become known as the leader, at least for your surroundings, your areas that you serve. So we do have our third and final polling question. Andrea, if you want to maybe ask that, because this will be interesting to find out, if people are using, if professionals on this call are using certain technology providers to help them better manage the sales cycle.
Great. Well, we've launched the poll, and basically what we're asking is, what CRM are you currently using? And you can select one of the following: Sherpa, Yardi, YGL, which is You Got Leads, Enquire Solutions, or another. And we've got about half of everybody voted. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, I think we've got everybody. We're going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So number one was other, so 83%. Enquire Solutions was 13%. Yardi was 4%. And Sherpa and YGL at 0%.
Well, I'll call it fragmented.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So our takeaway from the past 18 months and connected to our past 17 years of doing B2C marketing is that you have a lot of options. So again, I'm plagiarizing from this conference I just came back with. Somebody threw this up. There's this company called Lumascape, or actually it's a website. And what they do is they visualize all the different providers for marketing technologies. And I mean, this was when I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so dense. And if I was in business to go find marketing technology partners, boy, I wish I had a short list. And so somebody threw this up yesterday, and it's like, oh, that's too much. That's too much. And then of course he played us on it, and he said, well, there's actually another company. It's called chiefmartech.com that, you know, they provide more information about marketing technology partners that you can go talk to. Well, this is way too much. It's inundating to think about all the different options that you have. So my suggestion for the industry, my wish, so if a genie came out of a bottle and says, hey, what do you wish for, Tim? Well, it's that the industry begins to have conversations with those that can help. And again, this is just a short list. You know, we'd be happy to have conversations with you, but the industry needs to start moving in a direction to deal with this growth, to deal with more competition, because when private equity comes into play, things are going to happen, and you don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be in a situation where you have to compromise the level of care that you may have to provide, you know, some folks on this phone, their family members. Because I tell you what, if you focus on delivering a great experience, you're going to achieve your goals. And to do that, you need to start having conversations with those that can help you achieve maybe the perfect world. And so I don't know where somebody gave me this methodology, but if you can create something that's repeatable, that allows you to achieve a greater possibility of predictability. And if you can do those two things, you should be able to achieve that profitability if you maybe have some good financing and operational folks. But at the end, as long as you can sustain your business model, sustain your operational structure, you can do some great things. And I tell you what, one of the most important things that we can do as a society is provide the care for our loved ones when they're getting into their final chapters. Because I know personally from my experience, you know, yeah, I've got a passionate purpose to do right, to do better. And if we can help, or if others can help you do that, hey, it's going to be a better place. It's going to be a better world. So that is the conclusion of our portion of the webinar. I think, Andrea, that we're going to open it up for questions.
Yes, thanks, Tim. We're now going to begin to answering questions. There's a few that came in during today's presentation, but as a reminder, you can still submit questions to the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So our first question is, we've heard the term open architecture. Can you describe for us simply what that means and why it matters?
Yes. So open architecture, I think I might have mentioned that either early on or that workflow diagram. So the aha moment for us, let's say in the mortgage banking industry, was when we created an API to either accept, ingest data from another system. And most recently, what we've been doing is sending data back to other systems. And so an open architecture is defined as one that can either ingest or distribute out data in a secure fashion. So that's what we mean by open architecture. And really, from what we've seen, there are some systems out there. I think it's more on the big system side that just, it's hard to get data in or out of them, and so I would not call them open.
Great, thank you. The next question is, does marketing automation depersonalize the client experience?
And I did touch on that briefly. If you think about sending the right message to the right person at the right time, the best way to do that is to know as much as possible about the recipient of that particular message. And so you always want to be timely in what you're sending to someone. You want to have a purpose, and really having more information about them allows you to provide a more relevant, a more personalized message. So the marketing automation, from a outsider's perspective, may seem or look too system-like, but when you look at what some other industries have done, they've been able to take data and incorporate that into the message to make it way more personalized, just like Amazon.com does when the yellow sweater that you are looking at on their website starts following you around the internet. They're trying to remind you of some of the tasks that you may need to complete, like getting it yellow. I'm not a fashion expert. I don't know who buys yellow sweaters, but anyway, that came out of nowhere.
Great. Next question. I'm trying to understand exactly the service. Do you allow me to get data on markets, or do you drive leads to me?
Good question. So it's both. I mean, what we've heard over and over again, and again, I'm not going to necessarily take this as a question that will respond from senior view directly, but in general. So what the industry needs to do is to take data, build processes that ultimately deliver more qualified prospects to the doorstep of the communities. What we're doing at Senior View is we're doing exactly that. We're scheduling the tours that would be for the sales team at the particular community. So there's some, again, going back to those categorical providers, there's those that will provide you data and you got to go figure out what to go do with it. There's those that will help you with your brand and some of the advertising campaigns. There's some that provide you the tools and technologies to manage all the different leads. And then there's those that, will advertise and bring qualified leads in that are typically more acute because they need to move in the next 45 days that may have a shorter stay at your community, which I'm not sure is a great thing for the industry. But what we're doing, what the providers need to do is take all these technology innovations and deliver more qualified leads to the doorstep of the communities to make their processes more effective and more sustainable.
Great. Another question, how big of a facility do you think it takes to justify the expenses of using big data lead generation?
Well, more than one unit in less than 1,000. No, what we've seen is, those communities that have 50 units or apartments, they may be connected to an owner operator that has 5, 10, 20 of them. Those still work. We realized years ago that we need to provide solutions that can be utilized by maybe smaller operators than the big brands out there. But there's no question that the sophistication of our platform, the scalability of it, is suitable for even those that have their name beginning with B or whoever. Mm-hmm. So, it really, I would probably say 5 to 10 communities could probably leverage this best, and if they have, let's say, 50 units each, it should work.
Great. Does this also apply to CCRCs?
Good question. That's a segment within senior living that's interesting. The not-for-profit, having the age-in-place approach, it absolutely applies to it. And actually, if you think about, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a waiting list, and they're doing it with the personas of their communities. And I tell you what, with more and more private equity coming in the market, competition's getting greater, and there's a lot more risk for CCRCs today. Mm-hmm. So if they don't have things figured out, especially with the new construction coming in, it's going to be a eye-opening experience and wake-up call for them.
Great. Another question, do you send the same leads to home care companies as you do to assisted living facilities?
We did. That's a good question. And months and months ago, we looked at the landscape of the industry and know that home care is incredibly important. I know personally from my mom's experience and what we had to do for her. Today, we don't necessarily provide services to home care agencies. We're very much focused on assisted living and memory care because that's really where the biggest pain is for the industry. I'm just not sure that we can help them as much, especially with the fragmentation of that market.
Mm-hmm. We've got a specific question for SoftVu. What do providers see as a percentage increase with qualified leads once using your service on average?
Well, we'd like to say a lot, but it depends. And it depends on the situation for the community. Those that have the averages, what we're seeing is that we'll help them anywhere from 1 to 2 move-ins per month, and we're seeing similar conversion rates as you move up the sales funnel. Being about 1/4 of the tours that are scheduled result in the move-in, and there's probably for every 10 people we talk to on the phone qualifying them, we're seeing a tour scheduled. So it really varies based on the conditions of that particular community, the geographical surroundings, and the competition. But when you look at a standard situation, those are the metrics.
Great. Another question.
And I will, Andrea, the one thing that I will say that, and I think this needs to be an industry-wide initiative because I see it in other markets, very similar to senior living, in that the $4,000 price tag with paying an outside entity for the success of a move-in, we believe that that's extremely high. We believe that number, when you run the macroeconomics of it, should probably be closer to 1,500.
Mm-hmm. I'm betting many people on this call will agree.
Yes.
Another question, can you provide some recommended sources of big data information?
Absolutely. There's a variety of compilers out there. You know, there's at the highest level, you've got the credit bureaus like the Experian, Axiom, or Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and then on maybe the more marketing demographic side, there's the likes of Axiom, Epsilon, and others. So those are the compilers, and there's probably some brokers, data brokers out there that can help with some maybe more targeted aspects of maybe census tracts that have higher acuities based on the age of the population in that neighborhood. So those are all the different categorical or specific types of data providers.
Great, thank you. Another question, does this service relate to independent living apartment rentals?
Yes, good question. We didn't know that we were going to attract, or I say companies like us probably, you know, they're looking at the pain of assisted living and memory care with the turnover rates as they are. But with all the competition that's being created from new construction, new development, and the fact that there's a lot more people coming into the world in this demographic that have the means to afford independent living. Yeah, there's definitely a need for independent living providers to pursue innovation and technologies like what we've talked about today. No question. Their cost sometimes is higher, and it may be higher than that $1,500 number, mm-hmm. but it's not $6,000 or $8,000. There's no way.
Terrific. Another question specific to SoftVu. If you are driving leads to me and my competitor offering the same product and pricing, how do I know we don't both get the same lead?
Well, you may. So no matter if you use the SeniorVu platform or somebody else, if there's somebody who's going to be coming into the senior living market, our suggestion for a community is you better know who that is. And whether or not you get that lead from an organization like ours or a Place for Mom or anywhere else, you know, you just need to know who they are. So every community is unique. Every community provides different amenities. It has different professionals serving and caring for the seniors, the residents. And no matter if you get the lead versus another community, you still have to go have that conversation. You still have to go through the sales process. Companies like ours, you know, we're going to sit there and bring those prospective residents to your doorstep. And you know, unfortunately, we're probably not skilled enough to actually do the tour for the community. It's better that it's handled by the sales staff, the professionals on site. So again, people are coming into this process because of their situation, and you just need to know who they are.
Mm-hmm. So then, related to that, Tim, what do you see as the gold standard when it comes to following up on that lead? What do you see as the sales follow-up?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a real good question. In going back 10, 12 years in the mortgage industry, you know, about 70% of the leads were actually followed up, and 30% were not. And and that was way, way back when. Today, if somebody raises their hand for a mortgage product on the internet, 99% of the time that consumer is going to be followed up in a very expedient fashion. I would probably say within 60 seconds, 99%. In the senior living, I'm not sure that's the case. I've heard numbers, and we've done our own research that not every senior or family is followed up on. Gold standard is 100%, or as close to 100% as you can get, should be followed up because they didn't raise their hand to waste your time. They have a specific need. And again, going back to that, the root cause, that overarching goal is to provide a great experience for anybody that raises their hand or who needs care. And I tell you what, if the industry rallies around that cause, it's going to provide a better experience, and everybody is going to win.
Terrific. There's a lot of questions actually specific to the SoftVu, how that works, and also questions on pricing. So maybe Tim, you can just give us an idea. Is it a pay per lead, pay per move-in, or the kind of the pricing structure? And then maybe some information on how some of the folks on the call can get more information on SeniorVu.
Yeah. And I appreciate those questions coming in. I was asked not to sell on this call. It's just to provide my opinion or observation. But I'll try and do this in the best way I can. And obviously our information's on the screen. Here's what we do is we provide a monthly fee to utilize our big data, machine learning algorithms, marketing CRM, call center services, and anything else that we can do to fill the top of the sales funnel. And our goal is to deliver tours to the community. And what we've done is created that entry point pricing of $1,500 a month with the inclusion of achieving one move-in per month for a period of time until the industry gets comfortable with this model. And we believe, based on our experience in other markets, specifically mortgage lending, that's what it should be. And we've got numerous communities already onboarded, leveraging this right now, and I think it's a win-win situation. But you can have conversations with our team about that. If anybody's interested, they can call us. And again, our suggestion for the industry is to go talk to somebody and to begin to pursue this perfect world to provide better care for our loved ones and a better experience.
Great. You know, for my own curiosity, with all that's happening in marketing technology, do you think direct mail still has a place? Is it still effective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all those different mediums have a purpose and a place in the process. But the fact of the matter is that I think the studies show that more than 90% of consumers do their research online and actually start the shopping process online. So, you know, that's a medium that's not going to go away. Social media is coming into play, and where more and more people are engaging in those channels. But yeah, the direct mail is still there. I just don't think it's as big of a part in filling the top of the sales funnel as it was years ago.
Terrific. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. I want to thank everybody for your participation, and also thank you, Tim, for your time and valuable insight. Just to let you know.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So once you leave today's webinar, you're going to receive a survey on today's presentation, and we'd love it if you would complete that and provide your feedback. We will also be sending up a follow-up email within about 24 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. And our next webinar is Using Big Data and Direct Mail Best Practices to Drive Occupancy. will be on Friday, November 18th at 1 p.m., and we hope you can join us. On behalf of Senior Living Smart and our presenters, we thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.